Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my summer waterfront ride in Seattle. We'll continue from where part 1 finished at Lake Union, and now we'll ride out to the Elliott Bay Trail on the new waterfront. So come along with me as we explore more of Seattle. Hey there! If you watched part 1, you know we're back here at Lake Union Park to start part 2 of the Seattle tour, where it was the early June annual Seattle Fire Department exhibition at the Museum of History and Industry. Boys and girls of every age are having fun trying the fire hose. In part 1, we did a loop of Lake Union from here, but today we're headed west, out to Elliott Bay and the brand new waterfront below Pike Place Market.
Oh, they're spraying the hose, you see?
But first, we'll be repeating this section of the Westlake Trail to get to the Ship Canal Trail. If you've seen part 1, you can just skip to the chapter marker for the Ship Canal Trail, or jump to 9 minutes 47 seconds to see the new route from the split. Otherwise, this is the same route as before. Just be careful of pedestrians crossing the trail between the parking lot and the businesses. Since we rode this section in part 1, I'll just let this run for a minute until we get to new sections of path for this video. As mentioned in Part 1, there are two ways to get to the Ship Canal Trail. You can continue straight on this driveway, or go towards the Fremont Bridge, as we're going to do here. Alright, last time we continued ahead to the bridge, but now we're going to take this ramp down to the right. And here under the Fremont Bridge is the start of the Ship Canal Trail. Named, somewhat obviously, for, well, this large waterway cut to the right. This allows large ocean-going vessels into Lake Union, or Lake Washington. Across the canal, the Gilman Trail runs parallel to us, heading towards Ballard and Shoal. The running track and sports field here is Wallace Field. Watch for tree root lifted pavement here. Once we cross 6th Ave, the shoreline becomes more industrial with marine businesses. And now we start to thread our way along old rail routes. Going under the 15th Ave Bridge that crosses to Ballard. There's no bike lanes on it though, so not recommended to ride across. And then slow down for this set of tight turns over the railroad tracks. This extra little chicane seems superfluous. We get a bit of shelter here under the Emerson Street Viaduct. Before the trail just uses this widened sidewalk for a bit. And then, up this surprisingly steep little hill, we're back to a two-way semi-protected path. Ahead, at Gilman Ave, the Ship Canal Trail ends, and we take protected lanes to the Elliot Bay Trail. Sections here are parking protected, as well as by the wand bollards. But it does appear that some are people car camping, so just watch out for people and possible debris in the path. You look faster, so I'll let you go first. You too. We need to go left here at 20th Ave West to continue on the trail. As you can tell, this is the BNSF Railroad's main train yard in the Interbay area. Watch your speed down this hill, as it's a sharp turn at the gate to get on the Elliott Bay Trail. Ahead is a now historical feature, this flyover crossing of the rail yard. As of October 2025, it's been replaced with a level pass. It's not just the narrow bridge that made this difficult, but these blind turns over the crest. Click the card in the upper right to see a great video by Best Side Cycling showing the new trail after this bridge was removed. As we cross under the Magnolia Bridge, we are almost to the Elliott Bay shoreline. Well, it certainly gets more scenic very quickly here. To the right, you can see the cruise terminals at Piers 90 and 91. They won't be the last cruise ships we'll see. And these buildings to the left are the headquarters campus of the Expedia Group. Rounding this point, we get our first panoramic views of Elliott Bay and Puget Sound.
If you're gonna pass on the right, you could at least lay on the right. Especially when the detour up ahead is going to slow you down so much you're not going to be able to keep making that progress.
And then ahead, we reach a detour where the Elliott Bay Trail is being widened and reconstructed ahead of the 2028 World Cup. Both walkers/runners and cyclists now have to temporarily share the previously pedestrian-only path, which you'll see makes for a tight fit at times. Be alert and expect for sudden slowing and maneuvering.
Right in front of a gravel bike.
It should be great though when it's completed, and I'll be sure to be back to film it again. Hopefully they might open it in segments as they are completed, if that's possible. It's always interesting to go under the conveyors for the Pier 86 grain terminal here. Looks like we've caught up to that guy who flew by us back at Expedia.
Good job. Jesus. That blackberry come on your video? It's a Yeah, blackberry vine.
It's hard to keep your eye on the trail when the views are this good.
Oh, more festival.
We're out here to educate our fellow folks passing by here about the fact that Seattle is now thinking about building yet another cruise terminal.
Little one. On your left.
As we approach the Olympic Sculpture Park, the trail widens out again as we reach a newer section. After we return from the waterfront, we'll go up this ramp to look at the sculpture park on the way back to Seattle Center. Now we're to the waterfront and the start of Alaskan Way. There are these new protected lanes, but this section is still being finished at the time I filmed this, so we'll have to share the road lane ahead. This part of the Alaskan Way safety project was completed at the end of July 2025 and is now open. Here, in front of the Port of Seattle building and Victoria Clipper Ferry Terminal, we're back on the path.
It is about to get crazy. Do the same thing.
Here at Wall Street is an interesting feature, a diagonal crossing for use on cruise sailing days at the Norwegian Cruises terminal ahead. You will cross to other protected lanes on the city side of Alaskan Way, as the loading at the cruise terminal causes chaos on the water side. And today is a cruise day, so you'll see ahead just the kind of chaos I'm talking about, with loading and unloading taking up the right side of the road. I believe that removable bollards or flex posts have been installed here to still allow loading and unloading in and next to the bike lanes on cruise days.
Goes off the bike lane for the cruisers.
Then, here at Anthony's Fish Bar and the Marriott, you can cross back over to the waterside protected lanes, or also continue to use the city-side lanes further. Without detailing the whole project, the impetus for this new waterfront was the removal of the former massive freeway viaduct that towered over the waterfront and formed both a physical and metaphorical barrier between downtown and the waterfront. It can't be overstated how massive the improvement is to the old, dark, loud waterfront. Here, just before the new Pier 62 park, we go from the low curb protected lanes to the full raised and medium protected lanes. And then this ramp takes us up and around the new Ocean Pavilion of the Seattle Aquarium. Above us to the right, you can see the Salish steps descending from the brand new Pike Place Overlook Walk. I'll have a walking video of the market and Overlook Walk on my PDX Walks channel, up around the same time as this video. Now we go right to keep on the new waterfront bike lanes. The new lanes are a vast improvement, though not perfect. One thing to watch for is these crossings and people bunching up waiting to cross. Also, these landscaping walls close to the trail edge require paying attention to your position. You are also a bit far away from the actual shops, restaurants, and cafes of the waterfront. We'll slowly roll through the main walkway later. On the right is the newly constructed Washington State Ferry building. Formerly very auto-centric, it is now much nicer for bike and foot passengers. Here, south of the ferry terminal, the path continues, but begins to enter the SoDo area and the Port of Seattle. Just after crossing King Street, watch out for this sharp chicane to the right to stay on the trail.
It's not extremely clear.
You can probably guess why, but this section of the Elliott Bay Trail is also named the Portside Trail. You can see the pair of T-Mobile Park and Lumen Stadium to the left. We'll do a loop of them shortly. The south end of the path now connects to the even newer Marginal Way bike lanes that connect to the West Seattle Bridge. At this split, staying left will give you the most direct connection to the Marginal Way bike lanes. Well, straight ahead is where the Marginal Way bike lanes have been constructed, but we'll need to go left here on South Atlantic Street. And there's a train stopped in the way.
I'm going to continue right there. Oh, don't stop. It is backing up. Huh. Okay, well, that works too. Look, there's the engine. Okay, come on. Come on. Come on. Keep going. So a little more and I can at least go around the gate.
Just a bit more. And yes, with it going the other way and sure that there's just one set of tracks, it is safe to go around the barrier and continue.
This light may not turn while the train crossings are up. I guess it's game day.
We'll go north here at Dave Nyhouse Way South to look at T-Mobile Field, home of the Seattle Mariners of the MLB. With all the people, I was wondering if it was game day. Then I noticed that they're teenagers mostly, and dressed very smartly.
Oh, it's graduation. Wow. High school graduation in Seattle gets to use T-Mobile Field. Here goes the Sounder train.
The Sounder is Seattle's light rail system.
We'll look at the park briefly then.
We can take a quick look at this back gate.
When we see major league stadiums. Oh, actually, I did want to go this way. I forgot. I want to go by Lumen Field too.
Yep, this half-block jog to the east takes us to Occidental Ave. To the right is the Washington Mutual Theater. And then Lumen Field, home of the Seahawks and the Sounders, of the NFL and MLS, respectively. And then diagonally ahead, we can cut through the pedestrianized former Railroad Way to get back to King Street and the waterfront. I like how the trees are planted along the former road and railroad alignment. You have to cross this section of First Ave South to continue, but convenient that it's closed off at the time. Also, there are garage entrances ahead past the trees, so not all of this is entirely pedestrianized apparently. Here at King Street, we'll cross Alaskan Way to get back to the Elliott Bay Trail. And once we get back to the ferry terminal, we'll slowly take the pedestrian side of the waterfront back to the aquarium. Watch out ahead, as even though the bike signal is green for me, people are still trying to turn left into the ferry docks. I wonder if there's an underneath here. These glass pavers are usually used to skylight lower level areas. I mostly stuck to a walking pace, especially in the more densely packed sections. I still got some glares from people though. If there were no riding signs, they weren't very obvious. I think later there may have been some all the way by the aquarium. Oh, and I got told off by a private security guard for even trying to walk my bike down one of the pier sides. Here's the famous original location of Ivar's Acres of Clams, Fish Bar, and Chowder. Hey, Ivar. The carved wood arches are meant to invoke native cedar longhouses of coastal settlements. Could you hear me unclip my pedal? I think I even just pushed myself along with my foot instead of pedaling through here. On the left is where you can take sightseeing cruises of the bay. I tried to go left here to see the Seattle Great Wheel Gondola Capsule Ferris Wheel, sort of like the London Eye, but was denied even walking down there.
Yeah, I was watching all the people instead.
Well, continuing on then. Here at Pier 58 is the now open Wavefront Park and Playground, sitting over the bay. Here on the left is the main waterfront building of the Seattle Aquarium. I did not see Mel or Owen. Now let's go look at the Ocean Pavilion, which I actually went by when I first got to the waterfront. Hence the sudden shift in a sec from overcast to sunny. There's an elevator up to the overlook walk, no bikes allowed, to the right. And then, this cool feature that lets you see the fish inside from the space outside. Just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Another view of the Salish Steps from the walkway side. Here is Pier 62's public space, with its adjoining public dock. On the western horizon, you can just see the snow-capped Olympic mountain range. And here's a panoramic view of the downtown skyline. There's the Norwegian Bliss, still loading at the dock. It would end up leaving just before sunset. All the people in line up ahead were there for a pop-up event by Torriani Flavored Syrups. I think in the end, you got a free mini bottle of syrup and an Italian soda.
Syrup. Man, oh my god, it's crazy. You're giving away free coffee with syrup over there? I hope so. Any merch? Maybe.
And back to the later overcast conditions on my way back to Seattle Center. You can see the city-side protected lanes under construction to the right.
Big boat. Marriott here does a hop-and cruise line staging business.
And here, back at Wall Street, is where the diagonal crossover is. Looks like from the chalk graffiti ahead that the protest we saw earlier was people also not too happy about the cruise congestion. Oh, I guess this shoreline walk just kind of dead ends here at Pocket Beach.
Rainier Bear, local. And creative name here. Cool. Dead end. Walk.
Here's the gravel ramp up to the sculpture park. Hey, see the vehicle tire tracks? They were from a maintenance cart that was driving around. Driving. Keep that in mind in a minute. No more than 20 feet after passing that sign, while looking for a spot to dismount, a voice from the sky suddenly called out.
Man, Seattle is about rules. Portland, they barely give a shit.
Okay, well, not to waste too much time. At 2 times walking speed, here's the Olympic Sculpture Park, filled with interesting, if inscrutable, large objects.
maybe put a sign on the Elliott Bay Trail side too. Oh, this will be fun.
I'm trying to go right here, but to get over to the left turn lane to go up Broad Street. Going up from the waterfront, Seattle streets rival San Francisco for steepness in places.
Seattle hills are no joke.
To go left here on 2nd Ave, we'll cross over to a set of protected lanes. Here, at the Pacific Science Center, you can enter Seattle Center again.
Risk another reprimand. Did you not see any walk your bike signs?
We'll just be taking a slow roll, half walk through the center. So that is mostly the end of the riding footage.
We'll walk past the ticket booths to the Science Center and just to not tempt fate.
Nice view of the Space Needle here. We'll go down past the base of it. On the right is Dan Corson's sculpture, Sonic Bloom. The views from the top are pretty great, but do expect almost Disney prices for the visit. Here's the interesting Frank Gehry architecture of the Museum of Pop Culture, formerly the EMP. Speaking of Disney-ish things, we're going under the tracks here of the Seattle monorail from the 1962 World's Fair. Whoops, can't go down the stairs.
monorail.
And back to the Panda Fest and the International Fountain, from where we started in the Part 1 video. Alright, it's not too crowded down there, and it is pretty warm. Should we ride down to the water? Of course we should.
The camera is not waterproof in the current configuration. Riding through pool water.
It was rather chlorine smelling, hence why I decided to not get fully soaked in it. One final postcard view. thank you for watching, especially if you watched both parts 1 and 2. We'll see you on the road and paths again soon. Goodbye for now. That'll about do it for our ride in Seattle. There have been so many improvements, with more on the way. We'll visit again in 2026 to explore more, so subscribe to join me on the roads and paths. Bye for now, until I see you on the next ride.